For a full 12 months a year, the 28 teams of the National Football League prepare for one day in January, Super Bowl Sunday. Every phase of every team's operation is focused on a single goal, the World Championship of Professional Football. Over 1,200 men have performed in Super Bowls, a game that has become America's biggest one-day sporting event. One big play under America's microscope can follow a player for the rest of his life. The stakes are high, and the rewards are great. The winning team is awarded the Vince Lombardi Trophy, named in honor of the man who won the first 2 Super Bowls. More than 500 million people worldwide watch the Super Bowl on television, waiting for someone to emerge as a folk hero. It is the hottest pressure cooker in American sport, and each Super Bowl has its share of heroes and memorable plays. The Super Bowls are stories of both success and failure. Each has its moments when some of the game's greatest players prove they are human after all. This is a story of the men who have stood on the summit of professional football. And each year, their footprints are blown away, clearing a path for other teams with other stars to make their way to the peak.
After the leagues agreed to merge in the summer of 1966, one of the details to be worked out were the details, the site, and so on for the championship game to be played between the 2 leagues. And we never knew what to call the game. My children each had a ball called a Super Ball, and my daughter was always talking about that ball. It was a highly concentrated rubber ball that you could bounce on concrete, and it would literally bounce over a house, very much like a golf ball would. And she was always talking about that Super Ball, and I think it was one of those spontaneous things. I just said, you know, the last game, the final game, the Super Bowl.
On January 15th, 1967, the Kansas City Chiefs and Green Bay Packers met in the very first AFL-NFL championship game.
Everybody in the Chiefs organization felt an awareness that we were representing the 6-year history of the American Football League. We weren't just representing Kansas City or the Chiefs, we were representing the whole AFL. And I'm sure on the other side the Packers felt the same way too for the NFL. But that first game was very significant because it was the only time that a team from the pure AFL played against the pure NFL.
This was to be the only championship ever televised by 2 networks. Maybe that's why so many of Hollywood's most famous faces were out to see and be seen. Perhaps it's also why this was the only Super Bowl that did not sell out. Those who did attend saw the underdog Chiefs score twice in the first half to stay close to the favored Packers, 14-10. But Kansas City coach Hank Stram was still worried about pregame statements made by Chiefs cornerback Fred Williamson.
If we had any psychological advantage going against the Packers in Super Bowl I, we couldn't do any talking. We have to be quiet. And here's Fred expounding on what he was and was going to do to the Packers, and how he was going to level them.
The man known as the Hammer had boasted all week that he would come down on Green Bay receivers Carroll Dale and Boyd Dowler.
Stram quietly comes over to me and says, that kind of attitude we can't have here. You can't be that kind of braggadocio guy that you're going to alert the Packers that we're here. And I'm thinking, they know we're here. If I tell you that Boyd Dowler is not going to catch a pass, it's because I believe it. If I tell you Garrett Dale is going to be spending half the game on his behind, it's because I believe it. As a matter of fact, the first fake Boyd Dowler gave me, they carried him off the field after that. He caught one pass, was slanting over the middle, and I said, this is just what I'm looking for. There's a guy 6'7", 6'8", coming across on a slant end on the hammer. And I hit him with everything that I had, and they took him off the field because the shoulder was no longer normal. And now if they want to blame the loss of the game on me, they can blame it on this particular incident because of the fact that after that, Max McGee came in. And it takes him an hour and 25 minutes to run a 100-yard dash. He goes over on the other side of the field, and I look up, he's catching 2 slant-in passes for 2 touchdowns.
As damaging as the McGee scores were, it was Willie Wood's third-quarter interception that devastated the Chiefs.
And it is intercepted with the left gun. That's Willie Wood who picks it off. He may go. He was laying back waiting for that.
After Wood brought the ball deep into Kansas City territory, the legendary Packer sweep took center stage.
Kansas City 14. To Jim Taylor on a power sweep, cutting back at the 10. Taylor is in for the touchdown.
The rout was on, but the Packers still had some unfinished business left with the hammer.
Well, I had set myself up because I was the Pied Piper. The Green Bay Packers are going to get the hammer. Donnie Anderson came around, and his knee hit me right on the smack right here in the forehead, and I went down. And I was a little woozy.
The hammer! You know who got hurt? The hammer. The hammer! They nailed the hammer. Hey, Slap, the hammer got it! Really?
I'm the clown of the football field now because I'm out. They got the hammer. They said, come on, get up. And I refused to get up. I'm embarrassed. They came and they dragged me off the field and dumped me on the sidelines. When they dumped me, I jumped up and I waved at my fans to let them know I was all right.
The hammer was conscious enough to read the final score. Packers 35, Chiefs 10. An important victory for the NFL and Green Bay coach Vince Lombardi. Vince would bring his Titans back the following year to Miami's Orange Bowl for their second straight AFL-NFL championship. This time, the opposition was the Oakland Raiders, who simply could not stop this team of Green Bay legends. The Raiders did themselves no favors by committing a wide variety of foul-ups and blunders. The Silver and Black have played some of the best postseason games in football history, but this was certainly not one of them. Green Bay bolted to a 16-7 second-quarter lead, with the key play coming on a 62-yard touchdown pass from game MVP Bart Starr to a now very healthy Boyd Dowler. But as the Packers went to the locker room at halftime, something besides simply the game's outcome weighed heavily on their minds.
We had all been pretty aware of the fact that Coach Lombardi was thinking very, very seriously about retirement. And while many of us cuss him or call him names or a number of things, it's something like you might do with your family. You can call your brother something, but don't let anybody else call him the same thing. This is the same way with Mr. Lombardi. We can cuss him, but don't let anybody else holler at him. And we all felt that this was going to be his last game. And I said to the fellas, I said, look, we got 30 more minutes this year. I said, let's give it to the old man. Let's play the last 30 for the old man. That's about all I said.
The message was heard loud and clear. Number 26, cornerback Herb Adderley, keyed a second-half onslaught that buried the Raiders 33-14 and gave Lombardi a victory in the last game he ever coached for the Packers. The World Championship award he earned now bears the name, the Vince Lombardi Trophy, in his memory. Super Bowl III provided the classic matchup of David and Goliath. The AFL underdog Jets versus the NFL seemingly unbeatable Colts.
You got to understand that the whole NFL thing was riding on us. That these upstarts actually were going to play against us, and we were 15-1. The only game we had lost was to the Cleveland Browns. We had just played Cleveland in Cleveland, had beaten them 34-0 for the NFL title, and now we were going to finish up as the greatest team in history.
We never recognized the American Football League, never watched their games. I'd never seen Joe